Hello to the Sunny Side Up community. We are so grateful and glad you are with us today. We have a very special guest that I will introduce in a second. Before we do that, I just want to give a quick shout out to creatingharmony.co. And creatingharmony.co helps us get our life organized. If we have a messy pantry or closet or home and you need her support, Heather Kinder is the founder. She is based out of Pawleys Island, South Carolina, but she will do virtual consults. She's helped me get my life organized, and I'm deeply appreciative of her for supporting the show, for being a good friend, and just for sticking around through this adventure we call Sunny Side Up. So, without further ado, I would like to introduce this amazing human that you see before you. If you are watching on YouTube or anywhere where there's video, you can see I am joined by Jeff Lioon, Jeff Lioon Jr., to be more specific. He has scanned over 5,000 people across the globe using this beautiful system we call OligoScan. He spent the past decade deep diving into the root cause of imbalance. He's known for his hands-on experience and passion for uncovering the truth. Jeff works with holistic health clinics worldwide to integrate the OligoScan into their practices and help practitioners interpret test results with confidence and clarity. He's also the host of the Intracellular Podcast, so another podcast friend as well, and he explores the intersection of minerals, detox, and cellular intelligence. Certainly somebody that we are so giddy to talk to today. And Jeff, I know we're going to learn so much from you. So thank you for being here.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Try
Yeah.
not to let you down.
No. Oh gosh, never, 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 never. In the conversations that we've had before, I'm always getting my pen out and my paper and jotting down everything you tell me. So, so why OligoScan? How did that whole journey start for you?
Yeah, so my grandfather, my father, and my godfather, so they all started Douglas Labs back in the 80s, which was a nutritional supplement company out of Pittsburgh.
Okay.
So they ran that company for 40 years. In 2009, they sold to Nestle, and my dad basically, couldn't work for Nestle very long. So he eventually left, and he had a 2-year non-compete contract, and my dad started Douglas Labs in Europe, so he was responsible for getting the product across Europe. So he made a lot of connections in Europe. And during his non-compete contract, he met the founder of OligoScan before it launched, and they hit it off, and that was pretty much history. So for the past 15 years, he's been running the OligoScan, and I've been testing myself since I was probably 16. So, originally when I tested myself, my test was really bad because I was a pretty big partier in high school and college, and I always cared about health. I always like was really into like lifting weights and exercising and playing sports, but I just thought I was healthy because of my physical appearance. So yeah, I basically the first time I tested myself, it was terrible, and I just didn't believe it. I was like, Dad, I don't believe in this device at all. And basically tested myself for the next 3 years, maybe once a year, and I kept seeing the same results. I kept seeing the same deficiencies. And then finally one day it just kind of hit me. I was like, maybe this is actually like showing me, what's actually going on in my body and that I need to take action. And that's maybe as I grew up, got a little bit more mature. Um, so yeah, one day I just kind of like the spark went off and I was like, I need to like see if this is actually representing what's actually going on. So yeah, since then it's been a journey of trying to course correct my personal test, and I was able to do that in primarily in 2020. I read the book The Carnivore Code by Paul Saladino, and that book was like the light bulb. That's what made the light bulb go off, particularly for me. And that's when I started incorporating organ meat into my diet religiously. That's when I saw the biggest shift in all the deficiencies that I had. And then that kind of set me down a longer path of, yeah, I mean, the past 5 years in particular, I've just explored different areas. I've tried different things, firsthand experience. And yeah, I've been doing a lot of tests. So it's kind of got me to this point now where I've seen a lot, I've learned a lot, and I just try to apply it in my daily life and help others.
Okay, amazing. And there are going to be some people that are listening to this going, wait, hold on. You're telling me how cool this scan is, but what the heck is it?
Yeah.
So, how would you describe the scan?
Yeah. So we're using the technology as spectrophotometry. So basically, we're shining the full visible light spectrum, full visible like the rainbow, full visible light spectrum into the hand tissue. And we're measuring the momentum change of light. Okay. So metals and minerals, both elements. Every element has a different color. That color is determined by its atomic emission spectra. So that's what gives the element its color to the naked eye. So we're shining the light into the hand. We're measuring the momentum change of light, how much of that light's been reflected and absorbed to give us an idea if that element is deficient or if it's in excess. So basically, we're looking at the tissue. The light has to penetrate at least one cell membrane, otherwise, we wouldn't be able to get a reading. So we're looking at the peripheral tissue, right? We're not looking at the brain. We're not looking at the liver. We're not looking at the kidneys. We're not looking at the bones. We're looking at the tissue of the hand. So it's not a perfect test in the sense that, we're not measuring the amount of aluminum in the brain. The only way to truly know is to take a biopsy of the tissue. But nobody wants to do that, right? Obviously. So we're using this as a baseline for overall accumulation in the hand tissue. Um, blood tests are looking at what's in circulation, right? The blood is the transportation system of nutrients. So metals come in, food, water, air, right? They come into the body. The body's either going to get rid of them. If it can't get rid of them, it's going to push it to the tissue. So the blood's only looking at recent intoxication. Hair tests are looking at what the body's excreted in the past 90 days via the hair. Dr. Butar was one of my mentors, and in his testimony to Congress, you can pull it up on Google. You can read it. It's an amazing read. He did a study with autistic kids and non-autistic kids. Okay. He gave both of them a hair test. The autistic kids had no metals in the HTMA. The regular kids all had metals in the HTMA. And that proves to us that we want to see metals coming out in the hair because it's a sign that the body's excreting. So it's like that's not the major way the body gets rid of metals, right? The body doesn't just dump metals in the hair. That's not the major excretion pathway, but it's a sign that the body's excreting. And that's really the basis of everything. It's like, is the person an excreter or a non-excreter? Are we excreting? Is the body detoxing the metals that come in, right? Because that's what we were designed to do. Or is the body accumulating the metals? So an HTMA test is really looking at what's coming out in the hair. Urine test is looking at what the body is excreting, provoked or unprovoked. So the difference really is that the OligoScan is looking at the accumulation, whereas the other tests are looking at, well, hair and the urine are looking at excretion, and the blood's what's in circulation. So they're all different tests. It's not that one test is better than another. If somebody had an unlimited amount of money, then I would do all the tests because it's a better glimpse of what's going on in the body. But it's looking at different vectors, so it's all about what we're looking at. That's the most important thing to consider, I think.
Okay, could you repeat for us again, Dr. B, Dr. Bertar?
Butar, yeah, Rashid Butar.
Sheed Butar. Okay,
Yep.
if anybody wants to look up that study, what's the name of it? Do you recall?
I would just Google Dr. Butar, Dr. Rashid Butar,
Okay,
testimony to Congress. It's a
perfect.
fascinating read. Yeah, it should be like the first or second hit.
I can't wait. I can't wait to look it up. And then in terms of excretors, I love the example you just gave about autism, because it makes a lot of sense if you think about behavior and diagnosis and the way somebody acts and interfaces and responds with this world. We live in a world that likes to give labels and diagnosis. And if you think about somebody with autistic characteristics, if they can't excrete the toxins, the chemicals, the heavy metals, they're holding on to those and it's affecting them more than it would somebody that is able to excrete them. So I love that example. How can you become an excreter? Can you become an excreter if you weren't born an excreter?
Well, I mean, we're all excretor. Like we should all be born excretors, right? Because that's the innate body's role. Like we're this incredible person, right? Everybody's incredible. We're born with an immune system for a reason. Like our bodies are designed to detox metals that don't serve us. That's the physiology of the body. So we're all born with that ability. Now, that's where it gets dicey, right? If the mother is super toxic and the kid's born with a bunch of gene mutations and a bunch of toxicity, a bunch of heavy metal, then the person might be technically born with a lot of issues, right? And they might not be excreting. Um, but yeah, I mean, that's ultimately the goal, right? Is how do we become an excreter? I think it really comes down to all the basic things. Um, number one, the three most simple things are number one, we got to reduce toxicity from coming in. Number two, we got to provide the building blocks. We got to provide the minerals and the vitamins, nutrition that people need, that we need, our body needs to function. And then number three, we need to maximize excretion. So opening up the detox pathways, opening up, making sure the liver is operating, making sure the gut is absorbing the food, making sure there's not waste tissue or a bunch of waste and plaque and crap in the colon. So it's really those three things. I think, we try to overcomplicate things a lot of times, but we need to start getting back to nature, sunlight, grounding, reducing EMFs. I mean, the list goes on. So yeah, we need to start like just taking accountability to see where we're at and to see like kind of how far we've strayed from what keeps us healthy.
Yeah, absolutely. That was the perfect answer. And I am one of the co-founders of something called the Cleanse Club. And we
Uh-huh.
talk about the three P's: pooping, peeing, and perspiring. And if you're not
Yeah.
pooping, peeing, or perspiring, you aren't excreting, right? And I think it was even Elvis died with like what, 80 pounds of poop in his body or
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, also too, it's like why does the why does the body stop excreting? I mean, there's definitely like a couple different examples. It probably varies, right? But the one that really comes to my mind is like somebody that is a non-excreter, and in my opinion, like look, you can kind of tell if somebody's not excreting. If somebody's carrying a lot of excess weight, they're not excreting. They're accumulating, right? Because the detox pathways aren't open. And I see this all the time when I scan somebody. I'll scan somebody that's, maybe 50 pounds, 100 pounds overweight, and, they've got severe mineral deficiencies and they've got severe metal toxicities. And if you think about what's going on, the body, if the detox pathways are blocked and the body can't detoxify the metals that are coming in, the body has to do something with the metal. If it can't get it out, it's got to put it somewhere. So it's going to put it to the fat tissue. So the toxins are coming into the fat tissue and they're accumulating. And okay, let's say that person wants to lose weight, right? And it's really difficult for them to lose weight. Well, if the detox pathways are blocked, why would the body lose weight? Because if it loses weight, the toxins are going to come out of the fat tissue. The detox pathways aren't open. They're just going to recirculate. So the body's going to spare you the energy and it's just not going to detox because it's tucked away in the fat. So that's why I think why a lot of people have a hard time losing weight is because, the liver likely is not operating at full capacity. Um, and if the liver's not up, liver's like one of the most important things, right? I love Dr. Edward Group. I think his philosophy's spot on. He says that most people have a liver that's operating about 20, 30%. I'm talking most people, right? Like standard American, 20, 30%. Well, if your liver's operating at 20, 30%, you're likely not digesting enough of your food because there's not adequate bile supply. And if you're not digesting your food, then there's likely waste tissue or waste accumulating in the colon. So you've got a downstream effect of, a ton of different proportions. And, it all stems from the liver. So that's definitely one thing to consider. But yeah, I think the body is really intelligent. I think we like to sometimes think like we're smarter than the body, but there's a reason why the body's not losing that weight. It's actually a defense mechanism to protect you. And that's why I think it's so important to take binders if you're somebody that's, carrying a lot of excess weight during that detox journey, because the binders are going to help bind when the body does release the toxins, the metals, when the weight does start to come off. But it's complicated, right? It depends on the person.
100%. 100%. And I love storytelling. I love giving examples because I feel like we can learn so much from these examples. So Jeff, let's say somebody comes in to you, gets scanned, they're 50 pounds, 60 pounds, 100 pounds overweight. Of course, their goal is to lose weight, but they're coming to see you to get scanned to check out what their heavy metals, their minerals, and their vitamins are. Okay, so you scan
Yeah.
their hand. What do you find in their hand? Let's just use an example that you've seen in the past. What do you find in the hand? And what do those levels look like? Heavy metals, minerals, vitamin wise. And then what do you recommend? Could we do that? Could we go through an example?
Yeah, sure. Let's see. I'll pull one up. So, well, I mean, basically, we're testing for I think it's like 22 minerals, 16 heavy metals, and 7 vitamins. Basically, we're looking at the intracellular accumulation of metals or what the body has available to use in terms of minerals, what the body can use, right? So, in somebody that's usually carrying a lot of excess weight, I'm gonna see the first thing, most common thing I'll see is sometimes is a copper toxicity zinc blockade. So that's indicating that the copper is high on the OligoScan and the zinc is even higher. So people like it'll help me to explain this a little better. So when the copper is elevated, it's displacing the zinc to the peripheral tissue. But in reality, it would be a zinc deficiency because the zinc is high, but it's high because it's being displaced by the excess copper. So this is like a really you can really dive into this in a lot of detail. But we the basis is we need copper and we need zinc. We need both. And I think one of the reasons why people have high copper toxicity, is number one, estrogen imbalance. So could be like xenoestrogens, could be birth control, could be plastic exposure, BPA. Um, Copper toxicity could also come from water. In Australia, they fluorinate the water just like they do here. They have copper pipes. One of the theories is that the fluoride leaches the copper from the pipes and it gets into the drinking supply. Um, but the big thing when I see high copper and high zinc is the liver is congested because why does the copper accumulate? Like what food would you eat if you wanted to get liver? I'm sorry, get copper. I just spoiled it. Liver, because liver has a ton of copper. So I instead of like always gravitating on like highs and lows, I try to like understand what the test is telling me. And when you see high copper, it usually means that the liver is stagnant or that the liver needs to be addressed. And that's just like a holistic approach, right? It's like, why is the copper high? Were we on birth control? Did we get exposure growing up? Was it passed down from generation? Or is it showing us that the liver is congested? So then I would ask the person, like, do you have anxiety, depression? Those are just some symptoms that usually are a sluggish liver. What's your digestion like? I would go through and see if any of the symptoms for a sluggish liver accurately depict what they're telling me. So anyway, back to our example, somebody that's carrying a lot of excess weight. So sometimes I would see high copper and high zinc, so liver. Usually I would see low chromium. So chromium is really important for blood sugar metabolism, insulin resistance, metabolic function. Usually the more weight you're carrying, the lower it is. It's a sign of insulin resistance. I'll also see low iodine sometimes. Iodine's really, really important mineral. Protects us from radiation, detoxes mercury, detoxes fluoride. In pregnant women that are iodine deficient, it can impact the IQ by 35 points. It's a huge deal. The Japanese have the lowest iodine deficiency at anywhere in the world because they eat a lot of seafood and kelp. Kelp is really high in iodine. So iodine's huge. Iodine's huge, but a lot of times, iodine is very associated with the thyroid. It's imperative for the thyroid function. So you'll see low iodine. Um, Boron is a really interesting one. Um, I'm reading this book right now. It's called The Synergy Between Minerals and Important Physiological Processes. It's by Elizabeth Louise Hutchies. She's from the Netherlands, so I can never pronounce that last name. But the book's incredible. It's absolutely incredible, and it talks all about aluminum. And when aluminum is high, it's going to impact the silica. When silica is low, it's going to impact the boron. So oftentimes you need boron and silica to detox aluminum, but aluminum is affecting the silica and the boron. So anyway, boron is back to boron. Boron is so freaking interesting. If you do there's this document, might be hard to find. I can send it to you, but it's called the borax conspiracy. And yeah, it's really they did a there's a study that taking 10 milligrams of boron for 2 weeks can increase the vitamin D absorption by 49%. And boron is the hormonal element, so it's very hormone related. Most of the boron is in the parathyroid, and then the bones, and then the enamel of the tooth. But it's really an incredible mineral that we need that a lot of people aren't getting. Fertilizer depletes the boron in the environment. So if you look across the world, like certain places will have higher boron from the soil than others. I think Africa has like the lowest, and I think Israel actually has like the highest, and it just varies. But um, we do get boron from like plums, I think plums and like prunes and apples, but it just depends on the soil. Now, one of the reasons why I think and I'm a hunter, so I'm always in the woods. One of the reasons why I think there's so many trees down in the woods, I don't know if people notice this, but like I notice it. There's just a lot of massive trees down. Like I was hiking a couple weeks ago, and there were these like 200-year-old pine trees, just like the whole tree was like horizontal and like the roots and everything. And this wasn't like on a hilltop. This was like in, just like relatively flat area. And there's just these huge trees down. Anyway, I did some research, and boron is needed for the trees to grow. And I believe that there's aluminum in the chemtrails. The aluminum is coming down in the water and it's inhibiting the uptake of boron. So it's really interesting. That's just a hypothesis, but I think it's one of the reasons that could explain like why there's so many trees down is because the plants don't have the minerals because of the aluminum. So it's always like I always like to look at the metal and then look at the mineral and see if there's a relationship there. Um, okay, I'll just finish up this point and then you can ask me if I'm ranting. But um, boron on the OligoScan, in my opinion, is not representative of what we need or like our status. And I'll explain. So like, and that's why I always use common sense above everything, right? No test is perfect. The OligoScan is looking at the peripheral tissue. Where is a lot of the boron in the body? Parathyroid, bones, and enamel. There's not a whole lot of boron in the peripheral tissue, in my opinion. So I don't think it's the best measure of the boron. However, we know that if the aluminum is high, which I see all the time, and we see low magnesium and low silica, which I see a lot, that would infer me to believe that we need more boron. The last thing I'll say about boron is that in this borax conspiracy talks about it. It's a short read. I can send it to you. Um, Basically, there was this Australian. I don't know if he was a doctor or just a guy, but he was basically like producing like I think it was like 10,000 bottles of boron a day or a month and just distributing it. And he needed it. He wanted to scale it, and he went to a pharmaceutical company, and that's when basically the TSA went after him and just shut him down. But he was basically curing people from arthritis. And boron can really help with arthritis because there's there's second, third, and fourth level effects with all these minerals. So I guess like basically what I'm trying to say is like if you have a high metal, it's likely going to be impacting some of these important minerals, boron, silica, magnesium. But there's third, fourth, fifth layer effects where maybe the body, if it doesn't have the boron and the silica, it can't detox the aluminum. But the boron and the silica are necessary for the absorption of copper and zinc. So that's where like I try to think about it more as a system and more of like how does everything interact versus like black and white.
No, absolutely. It's all connected. And that is the reason that I am in the work that I'm in, why I'm pursuing a naturopathic doctorate is because I'm so passionate like you are that everything is connected. We are connected to those trees that are down. We
Yeah.
are connected to the mineral kingdom. We are connected, and the minerals and the heavy metals are directly responding with each other, right? The
Yeah.
silica is the aluminum is the antagonist to silica, and so on and so forth. So going back to our example,
Yeah.
and I love that deep dive and some nuggets about boron that I didn't even realize. But
Yeah.
going back to that example, this person that comes to us seeking help, seeking results from the scan, it sounds like the first thing this person would need to do is probably a liver cleanse, right? And I know you're passionate about the liver
Yeah.
cleanse, right?
Yeah. Okay, by the way, I'm not a doctor. I'm not giving any medical advice.
No, for sure. Neither am I. Neither am I. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
So the first thing I like to have people do,
Yeah.
but before anything else, is You go to chronometer.com. You type in everything you eat for a typical day. Like, and you actually have to put in everything. You can't just like, oh, I'm not going to count those M&Ms and Coke. You got to put everything in. You put everything in for a day or two, and then you go to the bottom and you look to see what percentage of the RDA you're hitting in terms of the minerals and the vitamins. And, be honest with yourself, right? But if you're only getting 50% of the zinc, 20% of the magnesium, 30% of the vitamin E, 10% of the, I don't know, whatever, silica. I don't think they have silica because Chronometer only has the essential minerals, right? Like even from this book I'm reading, even like the FDA or the FDA of the EU, there's no recommended amount for silica, for boron, for a couple of these other like unique minerals. So the chronometer is only as good as the basic ones. But anyway, go through that and see. And if you're only getting 25% of the zinc from the RDA, which is low to begin with, um, you extrapolate that over 2 weeks, 2 years, 10 years, you got a mineral deficiency. So I think people need to like think about that first because we gotta find the foods first and foremost to get the nutrition up, right? Spoiler alert, some of the most nutrient dense foods that you can eat every day that what get almost all these minerals up. Raw milk, liver, avocado, oysters, eggs, those five foods alone like really boost everything, especially liver. Um, so yeah, I would start with that, number one. When it comes to the liver flushing, yeah, I love liver flushing. However, if somebody's like really backed up, if somebody's got a lot of different things going on and really is having trouble maybe going to the bathroom, they've got a lot of symptoms, it might be better to start with more gentle things before just jumping into it. It's anybody's decision, right? If it was me, I'd probably do it. But I'm just saying, like, I think it's smart to maybe it's maybe smart to do a little bit more safe things first before you do the liver flush. I still think the liver flush is safe, but I would probably just maybe wait on that for like do some other things first. Would you agree or no?
Well,
Would you
yeah.
say go right? Would you say go for it?
No, I love that you asked me back. I would say the three P's need to be open for sure, the pooping, perspiring, and peeing. I think that if somebody's liver is so toxic and their doctor is telling them that they need to get their gallbladder removed, um, I think that we need to have a serious conversation about maybe taking a week or two with herbs, um,
Yeah,
with a lot of hydration, and getting things moving. But if we're in like a dire situation where they're facing having an organ removed, then that would be a situation. And again, I'm not a doctor. This is not doctor's
yeah,
advice, but that would be a situation where I would say, go for it, go for this
yeah,
liver. But to Jeff, to your point, I think that it's such a bigger conversation, right?
yeah,
Of doing things in a very smart way to make sure you're
yeah,
working with the body. And every person, too, you have to meet everybody where they're at. I mean, you think about people that um, have not had access to the best foods, the most mineral dense foods, or they
yeah,
grew up just going through, you know, drive-throughs and fast food, and that was their childhood. And so
yeah,
in their cells, in their DNA, in their body is not a whole lot of constitutionally
yeah,
not a good base, right? And so where
yeah,
we meet that person is diet. We talk to them about eating better and drinking more water and hydrating and movement. And so it's not an easy answer. But to your point too, no, you don't want to just tell somebody that has no clue what they're doing and
yeah,
um, they've never gone down the road of excretion to just jump into a liver cleanse.
yeah, yeah. Like I would personally start with colonics.
Mhm.
Because if you've got backed up waste in the colon, and some that can vary, that can degree. I mean, you could be a skinny person and still have a ton of crap in your colon. The colon stretches like 27 miles long, and an enema only gets so far up. So anyway, I would first and foremost probably start with like 3 colonics in a month to totally clean the colon. And people say, oh, well, we're going to flush out the good bacteria. Yeah, but like, wouldn't you rather flush out the good bacteria and like 3, 4 pounds of waste that's just accumulating, that's harboring parasites and God knows what else? So yeah, I would. And you can always just take good bacteria from your food or apple cider vinegar or whatever. So I would start with, if it was me personally, I would like start with 3 colonics in a month, number one. Um, yeah, obviously diet, right? Obviously like exercise. It doesn't have to be like running 20 miles. It can be like walking five, like it can be like walking for like an hour. Walking is like, I think is like the best exercise actually you can do in terms of like stressing your body. Just walk. Yeah, walking. Um, and then, so I've been, been really, this is a little controversial topic, but I've been really deep down the chlorine dioxide solution, CDS by Andreas Kalker. I just read his book. I think it achieved health. It's really incredible. Yeah, I highly recommend people to look into it. Andreas Kalker and Carrie Rivera, she's down in Mexico. Their work is incredible. Highly controversial, extremely safe, no side effects. Costs $40 for like a 3-year supply. It's really good. So I would highly recommend people check that out. CDS. I would start there personally, because again, it's not like it's so simple as like it all depends on the person. It all depends on the scenario, right? Like, what is the body absorbing the food right in the stomach in the colon? Is there waste tissue in the colon? Is the liver operating at full capacity? Does the person have a ton of sugar cravings? So like, parasites, right? Like we have to like think about all the different things that could be going on. What's the stress level like? What's the nutrition like? Are they exercising? Are they, stagnant? Are they getting sun? Are they sleeping? Are they putting their phone in their front pocket? It's a big deal. Like non-native EMF that close to your heart, that would give me a lot of anxiety. Um, all these different things, right? Like, are they getting sunlight? I mean, that's really, in my opinion, the saddest thing is like, it's summer right now. Like, we should be like outside. Now, I get most people have to work, right? But that just means they're not getting sun. So, if you look into like Dr. Jack Kruse's work, in the summer, like we're supposed to be getting a ton of sun. In the winter, obviously, there's not as much sun, but we're sleeping more. So like we're kind of going into like hibernation. And when we have more melatonin and vitamin D kind of like go like this. So yeah, these are all just things for the average person to consider and just think about like where you're at with all these different things that, compromise your health or that, yeah, that compromise their health.
You use the word uh, when you were talking about CDS. You use the word that it's what was the word you used? Um, Controversial.
Yeah.
Controversial. And I think a lot of topics that we will talk about today and in the future can be controversial. But you know what I love so much about this conversation and about you, Jeff, is that you are curious. And
Yeah.
every single one of us should get curious about, we hear raw milk is bad, but when you get curious and look up actually the benefits of it, and even if it is controversial, you learn something. You hear nicotine is bad, but when you deep dive and look at the work of Dr. Brian Artis, you might learn something and find something new, right?
Yeah.
Um, so I think that there are these tools. I like to call them tools. And there are all these ways that we can holistically heal our body if we get curious, right?
Yeah.
I feel like you're such a curious human, and following you on Instagram and all the things. You travel the world, Jeff. You travel the world to
I
find
do.
people.
Yeah, I do. I just like to plant seeds too. Like, I'm not your guy that's gonna like spit you all the facts. I'm your guy that's gonna plant the seed and give you the thing that you might need to research. Because it's not my it's I don't think it's my job to give you the facts. I think it's my job to give you the curiosity to go do your own research. Because at the end of the day, it's all about you doing your own research. That's if you resonate with something or not, you're gonna decide to do something or not. And I don't think it's anybody else's decision but yours. So I just have to plant seeds. That's just my pretty much my role. But back to the raw milk thing. People forget that, when you pasteurize milk, you're basically heating it up and you're killing the enzymes that your body needs to break down the milk. So when people say they have a dairy allergy, well, yeah, dairy to a dead milk that literally will go bad in a week in your fridge because it doesn't have any nutrition. and it rots for a reason because it rots because there's no enzymes. So yeah, I mean, I used to be allergic to ice cream when I was like a little kid, and like I drink more milk than anybody in my family now. And I don't have any allergy to raw milk at all. Now, I think it's all about moderation, right? For sure. And maybe try goat milk before you try cow milk for some people. But back to what I was saying about the chronometer, I mean, raw milk is a superfood. It's got a ton of nutrition in it, especially if it comes from a cow that's healthy. That's the key.
So I have to tell you, I have been lactose intolerant for a long time. And I was at a kid's birthday party actually, and two things happened. I'm either never going to be invited back to the party because of what I talk about, or people are going to gravitate to me because they're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, she's willing to talk about this, right?" So this gentleman at the party, he started down the road of two things: urine therapy and raw milk. And I was like, I am in the right party. I'm with the right people, right?
Yeah, totally.
So we started talking about raw milk, and he's like, "Do you want to try it?" He's like, "We have a cow share because in Michigan, it's not legal to have raw milk. You have to have a cow share. That's a
Yeah.
whole thing, right? I don't know what it's like in Pennsylvania or the other states that people are listening from, but I said, no, I'm going to pass on trying the raw milk because my body can't digest milk. And I just have like a bad, taste in my mouth, I guess, if you will, about
Yeah.
milk. And explained the whole thing you did about the enzymes and how it's a superfood. And I said, okay, go get a glass. I'll take a sip. And Jeff, it was so delicious. It
Yeah,
was
it's the best
so
ever.
delicious. And I also didn't have one issue with it. So I immediately went home and told my husband, I was like, we got to jump on this raw milk train.
It's so freaking good. I I have to watch myself too because I'll drink like too much of it. Like so I have to go and I have to be careful because it's
Yeah.
like a milkshake and it's great. But I'll put like bee pollen on the top and like stir it up, let it soak. It's so good. Bee pollen's another great superfood.
Bee pollen. Well,
Yeah.
bees in general. I mean,
Bees in
my
general.
goodness. Somebody was just telling me the other day about using bees in their eyes. There's a certain, I don't
Yeah.
know, propolis or what it was, but for and their corneas for have you heard of this?
I've done it. Yeah.
Oh, okay. What'd you do it for?
Well, I did it for floaters, I think. I'm I'm big into the plant medicine realm, and there was a this website that was promoting it for like floaters. So there's a herb. I've done it so many times. It's embarrassing that I can't remember the name. I think it's like Sangaria. I can never pronounce it. It's like Sangria or something. Sangara, I think. But they're eye drops, and basically like you put them in your eyes. Usually the protocol is you do that before combo, which is tree frog medicine. But that's like one of the first things you do, and it really burns, but it feels really amazing after. But this company was selling this like little honey from I think it was Peru, and you just do like drops, and it kind of burns, but not as bad. Um, yeah. I think it's like one of those things. Like I don't think it's gonna like cure you, but I think it could help. All these things, in my opinion, are just like little tools to help get the body to where it needs to be. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah,
Because
absolutely. And going back to getting curious, nothing that Jeff and I are saying today, we're not encouraging you to go out and do combo on your own and do all, no way, no way, please don't. Find a practitioner that specializes in it, right? Find somebody to hold your hand and guide you and support you. And in this work that Jeff and I are doing, it's all about empowering you. We want you to be empowered to know that there is a way instead of just walking into a doctor's office or a dentist's office or something and just saying, oh, well, this is the way. There are other ways, and that's what
yeah,
we're here to talk about today.
yeah,
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you, I wanted to go back to aluminum if we
yeah,
could. Because aluminum is pervasive. Aluminum cans, aluminum bakeware, aluminum in the
yeah,
sky, aluminum everywhere. So
yeah.
talk to us about aluminum. And then if you will share, hot off the presses, you were mentioning to me before we hit record some things you're working on with aluminum. Could we go there?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I mean, aluminum is the most prevalent metal that I see in test reports from my generation. So the number one metal for like my parents' generation is going to be mercury, right? Mercury, silver. But for my generation, the younger generations, it's aluminum because it's really everywhere. You mentioned, obviously they're spraying it in the skies. I mean, it's just like all you got to do is look up, right? So and that's having a significant impact on us, right? It's so small that we're inhaling it, but it's also getting into the water. So aluminum, processed foods. So a single Kraft cheese slice is like one of the worst foods that has aluminum. So a lot of people eat cheeseburgers, right? Fast food, they're getting cheeseburgers. They even go to a restaurant, cheeseburgers. I don't know, is the restaurant using singles or what? But burgers, aluminum because the cheese. But then there's other things like antiperspirant deodorant, which is a big one. Um, if we think about like antiperspirant deodorant, it means anti-sweat. You put a metal on the underarm, you block the lymphatic system from being able to excrete because that's the goal, right? Not to sweat. So you're blocking it with a metal, and you're basically the metal has nowhere to go. So I think why the breast cancer incidence are so high in women is because the lymphatic system is blocked from the underarm down. So antiperspirant's a huge one. Nespresso coffee makers is a big one. You know, those little cans, they're putting scalding water through the can, it's leaching. I mean, I was in Whitefish, Montana. I tested this one of my friends, and I went to his house and I walked in his kitchen. I looked to my left and I saw the Nespresso, and I was like, I guarantee this aluminum is going to be high, and it was. So there's a big source. Um, what else? Cookware is another big one. Aluminum, Teflon, pots and pans. You know, like Amazon Basics. I don't know what they use, but I'm guessing it's probably aluminum. So it's really, quite common. So yeah. Now, another trend that I see is that most people that have high aluminum, I'm talking like in the red on the OligoScan test report, almost 9 out of 10 times when I see that, I ask them, do you break a sweat? Is it hard for you to break a sweat? They say, yes, it's very hard for me to break a sweat. So that goes back to my example about the antiperspirant. So I think, and I was taught this by one of my mentors, Mike Fesler from Herbalix Restoratives, is that one of the key things with excreting aluminum, there's external excretion and there's internal excretion, right? So externally is going to be sweating. It's going to be moving your body. It's going to be moving your lymphatic system. It's going to be, but sweating. So saunas can be really good for that. Um, and then when we think about internal detox, we need to think about the minerals that are being compromised from the excess aluminum. So the main minerals is going to be silica, boron, magnesium. Those three are huge. Lithium is also low in a lot of people that I scan that have high aluminum. So if we think about aluminum, like aluminum toxicity, in my opinion, aluminum is it's a brain it's a brain issue because the aluminum, in my opinion, is going to go to the brain because it's attracted to the fat. And if we think about autism and Alzheimer's, they're both brain issues. So aluminum from the you know what's and the aluminum in the older people from years of exposure. But I think it most likely is just an over accumulation from something going on. Like it still blows my mind how many people use microwaves. I mean, microwaves, if we know how to if we know how it works, right? Like it's spinning the water molecules super, super fast to create friction, which by and large not only destroys the enzymes, but destroys any nutrition in the food. So really the enzymes, but it's denaturing the proteins, it's denaturing the food. So it's like eating cardboard. So that's a huge deal. Not only that, but it leaches the plastic from, the tray or whatever into the food. So they're just a big no-no. But if you're eating, microwave food your whole life, you're just like not getting any nutrition. So, and then like when you don't have any nutrition, right? When you don't have like the nutrition, that's when metals are going to start to accumulate. So, yeah, we're doing a study right now, me and my friend, we're gonna scan. Well, we made this product. It's basically a mineral balancing product for aluminum, and we're gonna see how people what the test report looks like after 30 days, after 60 days, and we're really stoked about it. Because in my opinion, most people are not getting enough silica, most people are not getting enough boron, most people aren't getting enough magnesium and lithium. Those four are just not, people aren't getting them. So I like to say, like, I'm a purist by and large. Like, I try to get everything from food, right? I try. Like that's my goal. If a perfect world, I would just get it for my food. I wouldn't need supplements. The problem is, A, the food is more mineral deficient because the soil is basically depleted. 40, 50, 60 years of modern day agriculture, use of fertilizers. The soil has less nutrition. So the food that we're eating has less nutrition by and large. Um, Number two, I don't think our diets are, for the majority of people, are just not, they're not great, right? We're not getting, even if you go out to a restaurant, you're eating muscle meat, you know, who's eating, what about the organ meats? What about the more gelatinous cuts of meat, right? Most people are just getting, regular steak, filet. But like we need all three. Like we need all three parts of the animal: glycine, collagen, even gelatin. So yeah, I basically think that we need to give the body the minerals that we're not getting, that are going to help us detox the aluminum and or help us prevent the accumulation of further aluminum. So yeah, that's so we're gonna see if it works, we're gonna pursue it. If it doesn't, we're gonna scrap it. But I think I'm pretty optimistic because, like I said, most people just aren't getting enough silica, boron, magnesium, and lithium. Silica and boron, particularly, they're key.
So fascinating. That is so
Yeah.
fascinating to me. I was taking some notes. First of all, going back to what you were saying about the whole animal, if you think back to primal, tribal, beginning of time, biblical even, God gave us the whole animal to eat. And just like the milk becomes exempt of the enzymes, when we're only eating one part of the animal, we're missing those critical things that the body needs. And then you think about somebody like a vegan or a vegetarian, which I have absolutely nothing against. That is your prerogative and your lifestyle choice, to be that way. But you have to be thinking in terms of how are you going to get your amino acids? How are you going to get your nutrients?
Yeah.
You have to be more cognizant of that, right?
Totally. And also too, it's like, you know, it it's really, in my opinion, the overabundance of the crap, the toxins, the metals, like that we're all getting, that make it that much more important for this stuff, right? If we were out frolicking in the fields and there was no pollution and we could only hunt the deer and like we could only, pick apples or whatever, okay, maybe, our bodies are going to be resilient because like we don't have all this pollution. But we're living in the modern day world where like we're just, I mean, it's not even to be like a fearmonger. I hate that. Like I don't want to be a fearmonger. It's just reality. Like we're getting a lot of exposure to pollution, and that by and large, the antagonist synergist relationships between elements is increasing our need for nutrition. So it's just a major piece of the puzzle that I think is really important. But, stress arguably is, you can't let this stuff stress you out. You have to let this stuff, like, knowledge is power. Seriously, like, you have to truly, like, not think about any of this as stress. You can't stress about the chemtrails. I've done it too long. Like, it's just, it is what it is until we, maybe like stand up for what we believe in. And I think the best way to do that is just to basically spread the good word and to help people raise the consciousness of the planet by speaking up and not saying anything, right? That's step number one. Um, but yeah, we got to get the minerals. That's the key.
Well, and going back to what you said about not stressing, I remember you sharing with me what a perfect OligoScan looks like. And a perfect, if there was a perfect word of the OligoScan, is somebody that is not stressed, is living their life, doing breath work and taking care of their nervous system. So what I want to say to that, and then you can jump in, is in my practice and in my role, I love to talk to people about one swap at a time. Because if this conversation today is even leaving you feeling overwhelmed, if you're listening to this, and you decide right now, what are three things I could do? I could swap out my aluminum foil. Just say no more aluminum foil, get rid of it. Throw away your microwave and replace it with range top cooking with a cast iron pan.
Yeah.
Or even we could go as far to say, we do have a what are they called? The I'm curious your opinion on these two: air fryer. I'm sure some are better than other, but cooking by fire, I know, I kind of knew that one was going to be contentious. But the point is one swap at a time, right? One
Yeah.
swap at a time so that you don't get overwhelmed. Start to replace the things that are toxic with a better choice. So, what would you say about swaps?
Yeah, totally. So I would just start there. Um, I was at a conference in Tennessee in June. It was a quantum health conference, and there was this one speaker. He was really great, and one of my major takeaways was he was talking about basically 5G towers, and he was talking about how like just imagine you're walking down the street, you see a 5G tower, and you get really pissed. You're like, ah, screw this tower. Like, why did they put this up here, right? You're basically you're being in resonance with the negative energy from the tower. Whereas like you're walking down the street, you see the 5G tower, and you say, I've got a shield around me. I'm good. I'm chilling. I think that and that was really like interesting for me because like I would just look up at the sky and see them spraying, and I'd just get so pissed because it's a gorgeous day and they're just blocking the sun, and it's just like, damn. But then I was like, you know what? Like I have to shift this because this is not healthy long term. And it's also like I'm actually giving in. I'm actually giving in because it's negative energy. I'm resonating with the negative. So I think that like I'm not just gonna ignore it, but I'm not gonna resonate with it. I think that's huge, really. I think that's huge. And like none of this is supposed to be like, I'm not trying to make any of this sound too hard, right? It's just like little decisions, and I think it's all about accountability and, just little decisions. Just do a couple simple stuff and then, level two, level three, and just keep going and make it fun. Like it doesn't have to be like annoying. And then you get to a point where you're, living a pretty clean life and you don't have to really worry about being exposed a lot. Now, granted, like I still eat out every now and then, like, especially when I'm home visiting my parents, like I'll still eat out and, I'll just find ways. I'll make sure that I'm going to exercise that day, like maybe eat a little bit more than I would usually would, or, I might take a couple more supplements when I get home after dinner or whatnot. But yeah, make fun, like enjoy this. Like, it's not like you have to do this. It's like, no, do it because like you want to do it because you love yourself and you want to be healthy.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah.
And that is the bright spot. So the podcast is called Sunny Side Up because we talk about there is a lot of darkness. There is a lot of negativity. There are really hard things in life, but light overpowers dark every time, right?
Yeah.
So your consciousness and what you believe and what you put out there and what you allow in is probably the most important part of this entire conversation,
Yeah.
right? Um,
Totally.
so great point. I'm glad that you brought that up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. No, thank you for bringing that up. So who should get the OligoScan? We're listening to this. We're talking about the benefits. Is it for everybody?
Yeah. I mean, you could basically test anybody that's over the age of 2 and weighs more than 24 pounds or is at least 2 foot 4 inches. Yeah. I mean, I basically, I'm obviously biased, right? Because, we're running the company, but I like to at least get a baseline to see where you're at. I think everybody, like, it's a smart idea just to get a baseline. Now, whether you retest after a month or a year or 2 years, like that's totally depending on what your test looks like. But I personally like to just get a baseline to see where I'm at. And then from there, take time to work on where you need to work on, right? If you got deficiency across the board, all right, we got to make changes. And it's going to take time. That's why personally, like I like to give it at least, I mean, I test myself every week because I'm a guinea pig for a lot of this stuff and I'm just trying to figure out what works and what doesn't work. But you don't see a lot of change week to week. You really don't. Um, it really just depends. I did notice that like whenever I go on vacation, my test I think it's gonna get worse because like the airplanes and eating out, it usually gets better. And I think it's because like I'm in this excited state. Like I'm not like working. I'm like, well, I mean, I love what I do, so it's not like bad, but I just think it's like the energy of like going somewhere new. And I would think it's the opposite from like the air exhaust fumes in the plane, but it's the opposite. It actually goes down. So, and I did actually test this 61-year-old monk that meditated like, I don't know, I think he told me he meditated like 3 times a day for the past 10 years. I scanned him at the biohacking show and his test, like he was 61. Okay. He had all his minerals were green except for one mineral, which was selenium was low and his mercury was through the roof and he had fillings. So he did have mercury toxicity, but the rest of the minerals were all green. And I was like, there was some deficiency, but they were still all green. And I was like, meditating 3 times a day. Now, I still think you got to get the minerals. The point of that was that it stress definitely impacts deficiencies in our health overall. So that's the takeaway from that. Um, yeah. Where was I going with that?
We were talking about who should get a scan.
Oh, yeah. So yeah, I think it's useful to get a baseline.
Yeah.
If people really care and they really want to see like what's moving the needle, then yeah, you can do it, once a month or 2 months or 3 months or 6 months, right? I mean, it just depends on how fast people want to see changes and how much they're willing to change. Because if nothing changes, nothing's going to change, and it takes time. So yeah, I think it just depends on the person and what their goal is, what they're trying to eliminate or what they're trying to get proficient.
So how could people find a scan near them?
You can go to theoligoscan.com and there's a tab called Find Nearest Practitioner. So you basically just fill out the information. Make sure you put your zip code in because that's how we basically pull up the closest practitioners to your zip code. And then we're going to send you the list of practitioners. So yeah, it's pretty easy. We'll provide you with a couple different options based on your zip code. I think we're in all 50 states. We've got about 450 clinics around the country. So it's pretty common that there'll be a practitioner close by. But yeah, all the clinics run their own business, run their own operation. Some are naturopaths, some are dentists, some have IV clinics, some are, have spas, some are naturopaths, homeopaths. Just depends. So yeah, a lot of times, it's going to be a little bit more expensive in LA than it might be in, Alabama, but there should be a practitioner around.
Awesome. Thank you for reminding us of that. I have the scan here in Michigan, and I have actually had quite a few people say that they found me through, it must be through your website. And then
Yeah.
also this, I wanted to bring this up anyway, zeolite. Um,
Yeah.
because there is a partnership and a correlation between zeolite being a chelator, a binder, helping to get the heavy metals out of your body. So, should we talk about zeolite?
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's been an evolution with zeolite. Um, I think it certainly works for some people. That's for sure. It definitely has a positive impact on some people. I think other people, it's maybe like inert. It's not doing much. I think it also depends on the type of zeolite. I think synthetic zeolites are a big no. If it's synthetic, I don't think it's good. Um, I personally, if I were to pick one, I personally like Zeocharge by Zeolite Labs by Jeff Hoyt. Or I like Metron Nutraceuticals. Their Clear Drops Pro. They're both different, right? One, Metron's is water soluble. Jeff Hoyt's is powder. Um, yeah, I think they're both. I think they're both. I think they both can help people. Um, it's just like what's the goal? What are we trying to accomplish? How deep is the metal? What kind of metal is it? Um, I think it's really hard to get rid of mercury from the tissue. I really do. Like I think that the body doesn't want to release it, whether it's because when it does release it, it's going to cause more havoc. It's going to rob the body of minerals. It's going to be a very stressful process when the body releases it. So the body would rather have it stored deep in the tissue. But it's really hard. It's really sticky. I mean, I just went to this biological dentistry show and saw a ton of high mercury. I met one of the basically the founder's partner who created OSR, Boyd Haley. I bet Boyd Haley's partner, and OSR it's a compound that detoxes mercury. Um, people can look it up. OSR, Dr. Boyd Haley. There's tons of videos with Boyd talking about it. But I scanned his partner, and he told me he's been taking it for 15 years. I scanned him. His mercury was still high, and he's like, I expected this because it doesn't get rid of it. It doesn't get it out of the tissue. It basically makes the mercury inert in the tissue. So if the mercury's in the tissue, right, it's kind of causing havoc. But if we can basically use the OSR to make the mercury inert, it's not going to be as problematic as if it weren't inert. I think truly, like, what do we actually know? Does the Z light work? Does the OSR work? What actually works? I think we have to go based on how does it make us feel and the symptoms, right? Because that's like what we do know is how we feel. So yeah, I mean, I think it's $1 trillion question is how do you get rid of mercury from the body? Honestly, I don't think anybody's figured it out yet because I don't know if it's truly possible. Like after 30 years of accumulation, right? Like if you have amalgam filling for 30 years, slow drip mercury 24/7 in the body. The body's going to get it away. It doesn't want it in circulation. It does not want the mercury in the bloodstream. It's going to either get rid of it, which it probably does to some extent, or the leftover mercury, it's going to push to the tissue and it gets stuck in different organs and tissue, whatever. So, you know, let's say we get the amalgams out and is the goal to get rid of that 30 years? I mean, I think the half-life of mercury is 50 years. So if it took 30 years to accumulate, we can't get rid of it in a year or two. That shouldn't be the goal. The goal should be to provide the body with the minerals that we know the mercury is antagonizing or preventing the absorption of iodine, selenium, zinc, phosphorus. So yeah, it's a really complicated question. I mean, I've been studying this for a couple years now, and I think it really depends on the person too. Like, I don't think it's the answer is Z-Lite for everybody. I don't think OSR is the answer for Z-Lite for everybody either. I mean, I read this amazing book called The Mercury Diaries, and it talked about this investment banker from the UK, his journey with mercury. He basically had a normal job. All of a sudden, things went to hell. He bedridden, right? And this book talks about his journey. And, he, at the end of the book, after reading it, he says that um, the Andy Cutler protocol method with DMSA and DMPS, he attributes 50% of his success to that. But he also talks, I mean, the book's all about how difficult it was and how, there were days when he did not want to get out of bed. There were days that he didn't want to be alive. I mean, when you start chelating mercury out of the body, it's hardcore. It's gonna really bring things up and it's gonna be terrible. So if I was a doctor, I don't think I would basically be giving people EDTA and DMSA. Like, I mean, so that's where it gets dicey. Like, does it work? It might work, but it's like playing Russian roulette. Do you want to play Russian roulette? That's a personal decision.
Well,
It's, you know,
yeah, no, I mean, that's a very in your face, extreme way to say it, but also people need to know. And I think, Jeff, all I can do is, and I'm not going to take the time to do this today, but share my story. I had my amalgam fillings taken out 2 years ago, and I had two and a half. And the reason that I had my fillings taken out was because I read a book called Detox Memoir by Dr. Christopher Duray, Detox Memoir. And it literally changed my life. I
yeah,
love that you've mentioned so many books so far.
yeah. I read a lot.
I know, I love that. So, but this Dr. Duray, he's actually local to Michigan, and he basically almost passed out taking the garbage out, and for 7 years tried to figure out what was wrong with him. And his body had become so toxic from, I think he had 11, 12, a dozen fillings in his mouth. So his protocol, again, to Jeff's point, you guys, is not everything works for everybody. Zeolite is not necessarily the right answer, but it could be. But Dr. D, as we call him, his protocol was one liver cleanse every month for a year.
Yeah,
Every month he did a liver cleanse, and he chelated. He really used the poor man's binder we call charcoal and
yeah,
bentonite clay and diatomaceous earth. These are the things that he used, and I'm sharing that with you guys because just know that if you're feeling off, if you're feeling if you look up the list of side effects of mercury, you might not have thought of it before. And if you have a mouth full of metal, it also the metal in your mouth is also in interference with all the EMFs, all
yeah,
this 5G technology, you guys. And then you wonder about dementia and Alzheimer's and all the things happening with our brain. It's a very real thing that you
yeah,
can do a lot of research on. And as soon as I had my amalgam fillings out, the craziest things were happening to me. The biggest thing was my hands and my feet started shedding like a snake.
wow.
I have pictures, and I truly believe that the metal was coming out of my body.
Yeah.
And mentally, emotionally, I was teaching PE at the time at my kids' school, and I felt like ragey. I felt super duper like ragey,
Yeah.
like the noise of the school and the children and the lights and everything was driving me way more crazy than it ever would have before. And I shared that with the doc that I was working with and with Dr. D. And the answer was you need to chelate more. You need to bind more because you have to bind when you are detoxing from these heavy metals, you have to bind and get them out of your body.
Yep.
Which is what zeolite is, right? Zeolite is a binder.
Binder.
Yeah, binder. So I didn't mean to digress. I just wanted to share that because if you are somebody listening to this and you go see a biological dentist and talk about getting your fillings out, just know that be smart about the journey. Make sure you are taking a binder. Make sure you are aware of these Herxheimer's responses that can happen, right?
Yeah. Try to go to somebody that's using the smart method. You can go to IAOMT and find a biological dentist. The last thing you want to do is get a mercury filling removed by a regular dentist. No, big no no. You're gonna get re-intoxicated. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, I really think it's not like, in my opinion, we don't take the zeolite to solve all our problems. We don't take the OSR to solve all our problems. We don't take, Pectosol to solve all our problems. We take these things to help the body's chance of detoxing, which is what we're trying to do. Like the body, the greatest gift that we have is we're born to detox. God given, it's our God given privilege to detox. We don't have to do anything. Our body does it for us. But we have to get the body so it can do that. So that's really so I just see all these different things as tools. But like you said, I mean, in that Mercury Diaries book that I mentioned, he credits the other 50% of his success to liver flushing, colonics, baths with Epsom salt and baking soda, parasite cleanses, all these different cleanses. So like it's just another testament to like all these different things. Like it might seem like a lot, but they're all you don't have to do them all at once. Like they're different things for you to try to see if it makes you feel better. And we're pretty hard on our bodies. I mean, at least I was when I was growing up. I mean, if I could go back in time, I would drink half the amount I've drank, but like I can't go back in time. So, but I can do a liver flush to help the liver. So I can help bring the liver back up. And I really think that, it's never as bad as it might seem for somebody. Like it's never over. The body's incredibly resilient. So like there's always hope and there's always light at the end of the tunnel. And, liver flushing, like back to your point, like it's amazing. But again, be smart about it. Like if that shouldn't be the first thing you'd probably do if you're still using a microwave. You got to take care of the basics. You got to maybe take some milk thistle before. I would even do a coffee enema before you do a liver flush because you're gonna have to do an enema when you do the liver flush anyway. At least if you do it right. So I would start with just a regular coffee enema or even a water enema. Start there. See how you respond.
No, that's very wise advice. And another plug for the Cleanse Club. That is why we started the Cleanse Club, is because we want you to do it smart. And according to traditional Chinese medicine, and Ayurvedic medicine and Eastern medicine, we cleanse with the seasons. And
Yeah.
so coming into fall, we start to think about lungs and large intestine and colon, like Jeff was talking about. And then when we get into the winter, it's more kidneys. And so that would be a beautiful way for you to support your body and then eventually get to that liver cleanse, right? Again,
Yep.
there's no one way. There's no one way. So,
Yeah.
so Mr. Jeff Lioon, I feel like you and I could talk for hours and hours and hours. So as we kind of wrap up our time together, what I always love to ask our guests is if you were to close your eyes, maybe let's both just take a deep breath. Everyone listening will take a big deep breath, fill up our lungs, let it out. If there was one final message to share with the airwaves, with anyone listening to this, anything that's on your heart, Jeff, what would it be?
Well, I wanted to hit one more thing before we got to this
Yeah.
with the parasites. We have to talk about parasites really quick.
Okay, sure. Sure. Let's do
And
it.
that pretty much because yeah, I don't know how deep you want to go, but parasites are important, right? Because we have to determine if is it there's a difference between hunger and there's a difference between like, are we actually hungry? Is it a hunger because we're like nutrient depleted and we need energy? Or is it like we're we're trying to fill a gap, like we're trying to fill a void? We're eating out of emotion, or we're eating because is it really our hunger? And I think because I would be remiss if I didn't talk about this before we wrapped up because like we kind of touched on it a little bit, but it's really important. And if we think about like, I don't think that we need to eradicate parasites because they're part of the natural world, right? And there's definitely some pros, I think, to parasites in the world, but it's all about balance and it's about our body's immune system's ability to basically keep them in check, right? Like, I personally don't think parasites are a good thing to have in the body. Maybe they do scour up some bad stuff and some toxins and they hold them in, but I think the body keeps them in check, right? A healthy immune system should keep it in check. Anyway, I think one thing important to talk about is it hunger or is it cravings? And if you have cravings, especially sugar cravings, it's usually a sign that you have parasites. And you know, I've done some pretty gnarly parasite cleanses, and like for example, turpentine is a really great one. Uh, People can look up Dr. Jennifer Daniels and turpentine, and it's like anything else. Too much of anything can kill a person, right? We're not talking drink a quart. We're talking a teaspoon a day. Can have and you don't ever want to inhale it. You want to, drink it. So you put it on sugar cubes, and you take the sugar cubes, and that way you're not inhaling it by accident. People just got to be smart. But castor oil and turpentine is one of my favorites. It's really, really amazing.
Castor oil orally or topically?
Orally.
You take it orally.
Yeah, about a
Interesting.
tablespoon.
I've never heard that before.
Tablespoon of castor oil orally, and I'll usually either do the sugar cube, so like 3 sugar cubes, teaspoon of turpentine on the sugar cubes, um, and basically the sugar, basically the candida comes out to feed, and then the turpentine basically nukes it. I've passed turpentine. I'm sorry, I passed candida in the toilet, and the reason I say this is because like you're not hungry for like the rest of the day. You're not hungry. And every time I do it, I'm like, that actually wasn't my hunger. Like I wasn't actually hungry. It was in my mind being controlled by what? Probably a parasite. I really believe that. So candida is a huge deal. Um, the CDS can also be really good for parasites. There's also like stonebreaker, black papaya seeds. There's, Dr. Huda Clark has a lot of great recommendations you can find online. But turpentine was in the Merck manual in 1899. It was in the Merck manual. And now if you do a simple search on YouTube, like it's the most dangerous thing ever. It's just like slaves were using on the plantations once a month to stay healthy, so they didn't get diseases. So I think parasites is a really big one. I really do, and I think it all starts with just assessing like where you're at. Do you have cravings at night? Um, I love pets. I love dogs. I love cats even, but if you have a dog and or a cat and they're inside and if you're taking that dog to a dog park, it's around other dogs. It's sniffing the butt of the other dog. If you bring it back inside and it's jumping on the bed and you're sleeping with it, like you just have to, I'm not saying like you have to hate dogs or cats. You just have to think in your mind that like maybe my dog was exposed to parasites from another dog that their owner doesn't care. So you got to medicate your dog. You got to give your dog antiparasitics. Otherwise, if you're in the same biome, you're going to be getting those parasites. And I'm not saying it's not a huge deal. I'm just saying it's a big enough deal where we should think about it especially if we have cravings, especially if we are compromised with our health. So it's definitely it's a part of the equation that we at least have to think about. And the good news is there's drugs like ivermectin and memendazole. I can't pronounce the name of that one, but just let it roll off the tongue. Something Zol. But yeah, Andreas Kalker talks a lot about this too. So anyway, I just wanted to say that because it's an important thing to consider and we didn't touch on it.
No, I so appreciate that. And also, parasites hold on to heavy metals. So it does directly tie into everything we're talking about in the scan. Just to backtrack, because again, I want to just reiterate this. We don't want anybody just going and
Yeah.
following this protocol. What's the book that gives the step-by-step process for what you were saying? Was there a
Um,
resource?
yeah. There's a book. It's called Healing Autism. It's called the Calcar Parasite Protocol. So the
Healing
Calcar.
Autism is the book.
I'm sorry. So it's called the book is called Healing the Symptoms Known as Autism,
Okay.
and that's by Carrie Rivera.
Okay.
And you could also type in the Calcar Parasite Protocol, and you should be able to find it.
Helger.
Calcar, Kalcker.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I just want to make sure the listeners have that.
Yeah, that there's a lot of good. There's a whole protocol in here. It's really amazing.
Great. No,
Yeah,
that's perfect. I appreciate that. So thus far in my journey, parasite cleansing has included black walnut and wormwood tincture,
yeah,
ivermectin, which ivermectin I'm a big fan of, and you can do lots of research on that as well. And to Jeff's point about parasite cleansing your pets, we should be parasite cleansing ourselves at
yeah.
least seasonally as well. And follow Rogers Hood Apothecary on Instagram if you guys don't already follow her. Do you know the Worm Queen?
No.
Oh man, get ready. Follow the Worm Queen.
Okay.
Rogers Hood Apothecary on Instagram. We've been using her tinctures for our parasite cleansing with the Cleanse Club. She's phenomenal, Jeff.
Nice. Okay.
She's phenomenal. And why I say follow her is because she's the education behind it, the why. And to your point about the sugar cravings and
Yeah.
um, the things that we feel from a health standpoint that we often can't pinpoint where they're coming from could be parasites, right? Um, we all should be parasite cleansing.
Yeah. It's an important one. Doesn't
Yeah,
have to be every day, right? It's like just maintenance protocol eventually.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I love that we didn't leave that off. So
Yeah.
and we don't have to wrap up here if there's something else burning and you're
No, that was it. I just wanted to I had to get that out there.
I love it. Tell me your one final thing. Parasites. We have to talk about
Yeah.
yeah. You're speaking my language. You're preaching. Everybody listening to this in my community will appreciate it for sure.
Yeah,
So
totally.
yeah, yeah. So, if there's anything else that in your journey, in your travels, things you've seen, the future of OligoScan, something you've never mentioned on a podcast before.
Hmm. Well, I mean, I spoke in Greece this summer and I got there. I spoke at this it's called Euphoria Retreat Center. It's an amazing place. I highly recommend it for anybody that's looking for an amazing vacation. But it's not even just a vacation, it's just holistic. But I got there and after, I was there to speak and after being there for 2 days, I started my presentation off with like basically like everything that I say here today, like 50% of this applies to these people because they have community, they have clean food, they have clean air. I didn't see a chemtrail for 2 weeks, my entire time in Greece. There's sense of community, like it was just like there's not a lot of toxicity. The food is so clean, the Greek food is so amazing. So I was just like 50% of this doesn't even apply to you guys because you're living it. Like you're already living it. So yeah, I think we can just kind of apply that to like our lives and just try to, it's hard in America sometimes, right? Like it's hard to avoid it. It's hard to avoid all these different things that are compromising our health. And I think big reason is because it's the United States corporation, right? We've just got corporations at every angle that are trying to sell us their crap. So, we need to support the local farmer. We need to, find community and build our own community and try to make the world a better place, especially this country. But yeah, I think the momentum is shifting. So I'm optimistic.
I hope so. I hope so. And there was a Netflix documentary, The Blue Zones. I'm sure you watched it.
Yeah, yeah, I did.
So good. If you guys haven't watched The Blue Zones, to Jeff's point about community and walkable places and fresh water and food grown without pesticides and skies that are clear and sun that is not black. Like that is medicine.
Yeah.
That is medicine. And that was from the beginning of time. This is not new information. This is just where we've gone astray from, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
thank
I
you
think,
so much.
yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
go ahead. Go
I
ahead.
think just a couple other things like, you know, bare feet on the ground, get in the sun. If when after the sun sets, like put your blue blocking glasses on. I try to do that. I do that religiously. Like I can't even like look at a bright screen now if it's like dark without it hurting my eyes. Maybe that's just like maybe that's just like me thinking that, but yeah, I look at a TV now that's like super bright after dark and I'm like, God, I'm not gonna do this to my eyes. Like no wonder I had to get LASIK surgery and had contacts for so many years. Like looking at these screens, like it destroys your eye. So, yeah, sunlight. Sunlight is, I think, really one of the keys. Like as much skin as you possibly can. Um, and like try to buy like good clothes, not like the polyester, try to like I've started to buy like linen and cotton a lot more. But yeah, I think I think sunlight is like it should be our best friend and we should get as much of it as we possibly can. And I think in the cold, like we should be a little bit colder. I don't think there's a need to like keep your house at like 74 degrees in the winter. Like you should come to my house in the winter. It's cold. But I sleep better. I don't know. I like it. It's like
Yeah.
it's part of the season. Like you
Well, you're
shouldn't have to be
embracing the
warm.
seasons, right?
Embrace the cold. Yeah.
Yeah, 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 for sure.
So,
Are you a
yeah,
cold plunger?
I am. Yeah, I do like it. But the thing is, well, I've been in Utah and Idaho for the past 2 weeks, and I was just plunging in the river every day. And the
Yeah.
river was so clean, and I was like, God, this is amazing. I need to be living here. But I do cold plunge, but I kind of am careful about it. Like if I'm gonna work out, I'm never gonna get in a cold plunge that's like chlorinated after I work out because my pores are super open, and I'm getting this cold plunge like with chlorine. I'm just absorbing it. So, but I do love cold plunging. Yes, I
Yeah.
try to find decent places that don't chlorinate.
Well, you've given us a lot to think about because, again, even though this can feel like a lot of information, simple things like switching to cotton, linen, rinsing, bathing, drinking clean water, putting your eyes to the sun. That's what I try to do every morning is first thing when I wake up, look at the sun with my eyes and be good to myself, put my feet in the grass. You guys, these are free things. These are free things that God has given to us and
Yeah.
can heal us. They can heal us.
Yeah. It's just like back to being a human being.
Yeah.
It's like just
Maybe
try
that
to
should be
minimum.
the name of our episode. Back to
Yeah.
a human being.
Yeah. People don't have to be, it just people don't have to like it shouldn't have to be a huge deal. It should just be like what we're supposed to be doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. If we're fortunate enough to live in a place where we have access to those things, right? Because not everybody
Well,
is, but I
the
mean,
sun?
you always have access to the sun. You always have access to the sun.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, you get right. Yeah, exactly. So where can people find you?
Yeah. I've gone anonymous. No.
That's probably better, off the grid.
Yeah, I've kind of tamed back a little bit from being this like, posty and stuff, but people can listen to my podcast, the Intracellular Podcast. I haven't recorded in a while, honestly. It was a passion project that I did at the beginning to start explaining some of these trends. Um, but yeah, I'm gonna start picking it back up again, especially after this aluminum study. That's kind of where I've been putting a lot of my time right now. I'm really excited about it, so I'll keep it posted.
Please do.
Um, but I think it's a really big deal. I think if we can mineral balance aluminum, it's really going to help a lot of people, and especially with a lot of common symptoms that aluminum toxicity has, right? Like forgetfulness, memory, cognitive function, skin issues. Um, Aluminum, it's kind of like it's public enemy number one, or it's just something to really consider. So yeah, I will probably be doing a lot of podcasts on that after that gets going.
Can't wait. Can't wait.
Yeah.
And I pray that it will be a part of your legacy, right?
Yeah, yeah, I hope so.
It could be very substantial and very it's an important thing. So yeah,
Yeah,
I
I'm
can't wait
excited.
to hear more about it. Yeah. So,
Totally.
well, amazing. You guys, Intracellular Podcast. I've listened to many of the episodes. There's lots of great guests on there. And for this podcast, Sunny Side Up Podcast is on Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, all the places. So you can listen to and share. If you could share this episode, we would greatly appreciate it. If you are interested in the OligoScan, come see me at my office in Milford, or go to it's theoligoscan.com. Is that right,
Yep,
Jeff?
that's it. Yep.
Theoligoscan.com, and you can type in your zip code
Yeah, and we're on Instagram too. You can find us there.
on Instagram. Great. Amazing. Well, thank you for being a guest. So grateful to you, Jeff, and would love to do this again with you sometime if you're open to it. And I'm sure
Totally.
other juicy topics to talk about. So,
Yeah, totally. Yeah, we can go deeper for sure.
thank you.
That should lay the foundation though for people.